Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So I was discussing in my last video some native plants and native gardening going along with our permaculture homestead here. And at the end of the video, I showed you that we got some more plants in. So I would like to take this opportunity to show you what plants we got and discuss the benefits of these plants. So I'd also like to discuss the benefits of native planting and native gardening and adding more native plants into your gardens. And I'll explain exactly why these are beneficial. All right, so these are all of the native plants that I had delivered, got delivered. I did this order on Earth Day. I did this order with my kids and kind of explained to them why we're doing this. So these are all the plants that were delivered the other day. So starting off, so I ordered these plants from a site called Ontario Native Plants. I'll put the link down below so that you guys, if you're in the area and you want to buy native plants of your own, you can check them out. There's also a plant nursery that does native plants that I like to go to called Origin Native Plants. I can also link that down below. So starting off, I have a button bush. So Native Americans use these medicinally. It has anti-diarrheal agents, anti-inflammatories. It was used for headaches and fevers. It's a nectar plant for insects. It's a host plant for the sphinx moth, hydrangea sphinx moth, and the Titan sphinx. So this is a host plant. Now host plants, if you're not aware, are plants that insects will lay their eggs on so that their eggs will hatch and eat part of that plant so that they can metamorphosize and turn into the butterflies or moths or grown-up insects, right? So the host plants are incredibly important, almost as important or more important than the pollinator plants, the nectar plants. So this button bush hosts 3 different types of moths. So next, hiding back here, I've got the eastern red cedar. So I'm going to plant this along my fence line. I'd like to grow up nice and big. So I've got 4 of these. They're just hiding back there. So I got 4 of those. So they'll start off tiny, but they'll grow up. Now these will grow up into really big, like a shelter hedge. And hedges like this provide a lot of shelter for songbirds, game birds, and tons of insects. So I know some people think, oh, insects, but like really that we are in that whole insect apocalypse problem right now where, you know, if insects go, so do the rest of us. So having host plants and that sort of thing for insects is vitally important. All right, next I have this morning star sedge. So this is a food source for the Appalachian brown butterfly and the American ear moth. So again, 2 species that I guess it's a food plant, so it feeds from this sedge. So this will grow up kind of like a ornamental grass. Next, I've got the dense blazing star. So this will grow up. It has a really pretty purple bloom on it. These are lovely if you'd want ornamentals. This is like a nice ornamental. It has, or it's a very good nectar plant for bees and butterflies. So once you have host plants, you can add your nectar plants, and dense blazing star is really good for that. All right. Here we go. This is our Kentucky coffee tree. So from a permaculture perspective, if you are looking for nitrogen fixers but don't want to go the route of getting sea buckthorns or wisteria or things like that, and you want to stay native, Kentucky coffee tree is a nitrogen fixer. So it will grow up nice and tall, and it's really resistant to drought. And you can actually use the leaves as tea or an uncaffeinated coffee. Okay, so next, you need a water. Next, I have butterfly milkweed. So this is obviously in the milkweed family. It's a member of the dogbane family. It's really important nectar and larval hosts for a lot of different pollinators. Obviously, the monarch being a very big reason why I get this, because the monarchs are endangered. So I got quite a few of those, the butterfly milkweeds. I've got another dense blazing star. Now this is common milkweed. So again, it is the host plant for the monarch butterfly. Now, common milkweed also is edible. It is very high in vitamin C, so you can eat the leaves, but you have to make sure that it is common milkweed, not the butterfly weed or the swamp milkweed or things like that. So there's another butterfly milkweed. So I obviously got a few of those. And also for the butterfly milkweed, it is a host plant for the gray hair streak and the queen's butterfly. So my next plant here that I got, I think I only got one of these. This is wild blue indigo. So the wild blue indigo is an herb and it's edible, and it's also used traditionally used medicinally and is a pollinator friendly plant. So it's got some really beautiful blue blooms that have been used in the past to dye clothing. Before I move on, I forgot to mention that the common milkweed also attracts a lot of beneficial insects. So they prey on pests like aphids, leafhoppers, and thrips. So if you're looking to get like a natural pest deterrent, common milkweed is a very good option for that. Okay, so next is spotted Joe pieweed. So this is a beautiful flower. It is actually very similar bloom to the milkweed that I find. It's an important food source for a lot of different pollinators, great in swampy areas, but I find it also does well anywhere else pretty much. But if you have a wet area, that's a really great plant to put in there. So I got a few of those. And I've got more milkweed here. I do love to support our butterflies. Okay, black-eyed Susan, that's another native. Also another good nectar plant. More butterfly weed. Another common milkweed. Here we go. So spotted bee balm. Spotted bee balm has been used as an antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiseptic historically. And it's also been used to treat ringworm and hookworm. It can be used as a tea and is great relaxant, but the blooms are also great for supporting pollinators. So I just like to note that while I'm going over all these medicinal uses, I am not an herbalist nor am I a doctor, so make sure you do all of your own research as well before you decide to use any of these or ingest any of them. I'm personally wanting to go over a lot of the benefits for wildlife. Okay, so next I've got a New Jersey tea plant. So historically this has been used as a medicine. It's been used to treat syphilis, gonorrhea, colds, cough, fever, chills, spasms, bleeding, and pelvic cysts. It's drought tolerant and it benefits pollinators. It is a larval host plant for the mottled duskwing and the spring azure, as well as the summer azure butterflies. It's also a nectar plant for the monarch. So that is the host plant for 3 different butterflies, as well as obviously a nectar plant for other pollinators. Okay, so next I've got some more milkweed here. Here we go. Next I've got anise hyssop. This plant is absolutely gorgeous. It's lovely to look at and it smells amazing. It's been used as medicinal and as an herb, and it's also a pollinator nectar plant. So the blooms are used to feed the pollinators. Okay, spice bush. I love this one. It's a host plant for the spice bush butterfly as well as the tiger swallowtail butterfly. Beautiful blooms and it's a lovely plant to have. Okay, next we have a cardinal flower. So these, if you like hosting hummingbirds at your place, this is a great plant to have. So these are great for hummingbirds. They've also had a history of medicinal uses, but I don't need to go over them here. But yeah, for hummingbirds, this is a great option. Beautiful red flowers, kind of trumpety red flowers. All right, next is my fox sedge. So fox sedge is a pioneer species. It protects against erosion. It provides habitat and cover for birds. It's also the host plant for the skipper butterfly. So you see a lot of these plants that I get are host plants. I want to support species here. Okay. All right, so next is the narrow-leafed vervain plant. It is the host plant for the common buckeye butterfly. It's also a nectar plant for various bees and moths. So beautiful flowers, and it will host a lot of different pollinators in your garden. All right, and here we go with the bush honeysuckle. So this is another drought tolerant plant. I'm finding it's necessary to bring in more drought tolerant plants because we keep going through large amounts of drought every single summer these days. So it's normally at least a month where we have no rain. So I find it necessary to get more drought tolerant plants. So this bush honeysuckle is drought tolerant, and it is a nectar plant for butterflies and hummingbirds. Lastly, I've got these black raspberry plants. So we have one planted in our front garden, and it grew amazingly, and it produces a crazy amount of raspberries. It is so awesome to have. It is so awesome to have. So I'm excited to be planting more of these so that we can get more raspberries. I mean, we have a lot of red raspberries in the back, but these black raspberries are incredibly delicious. So if you ever get a chance to get these, they're thorny, but they're worth it. So that is the benefit of all of these native plants. Now, I know there's a lot of cultivars in the stores, but they don't always produce a flower that is sufficient for bees and butterflies and that sort of thing to actually get into the nectar. Sometimes the bell of the flower is too deep and they can't get in. Sometimes it's just too closed of a gap and they can't get the nectar from the plants. So a lot of times the cultivar plants that you get from your regular nurseries don't do the trick. They do not provide the nectar that is needed, or they don't even have enough nectar in them sometimes for the local insects. So going native, buying from a native nursery is your best bet. So once again, it's Ontario Native Plants. I will put the link down below, or Origin Native Plants. Go ahead, hit them up, or if you're not in this area, find a native plant nursery for where you are looking to host plants and pollinator supporting species. So I'll take you guys along with me and I'll show you exactly where I'm going to plant these, and I'll explain why I'm planting them there. All right, everybody, so I will show you where I've put all these plants. It's actually been probably 2 months since I've planted them. I kind of disappeared because it's just been so busy. But I'll take you around right now and I'm going to show you where I've put all those native plants and how they're doing, and you can see where they are. So we're going to start in my backyard here, and I obviously need to get in and weed this area. My oregano has all fallen over and I have a weed in here that's just taking over, so I have to get in here and weed. But I planted a lot of the milkweeds in here. Now this is right by my patio, and I love the milkweed flowers, so I do want it to all grow up in here. So I've got butterfly weed and then I've got milkweeds all planted in here. So again, with some weeds, but I'll get in here and clean that out soon. It's been absolutely crazy. We've been going away quite a lot, and so things get left behind. But for right now, that's where I've put those. So in my head, I had 2 fox sedge, and I was going to put one there and then one here so that they could kind of be the entrance into this garden. But I only had one, so I'll have to get another one another time. So I just put that one there, and then when I get another one, I'll put it here at the entrance. And then coming around, we kind of made another garden right here. So I have got my bush honeysuckle and the morning sedge here. So I'm hoping that they'll do well here. They're right beside the Jerusalem artichokes, which have gotten gigantic. They were not this big when I initially planted them. So hopefully these will be able to grow up and be a nice addition in this area. Lastly, for the backyard, this is the area right behind where my American hazelnuts are and right before my goomyberry. My strawberries are actually starting to take over this area. So I put in a lot of milkweeds in here as well. Again, this is another area that could use a weeding, but you know. Anyways, there's the milkweeds. So I put a bunch back here, and I'm hoping to get a lot of milkweed growing in this area right here, and then the strawberries can crawl around on the bottom there. Okay, so out front, I had mentioned I had wanted to clean out underneath this snowball tree. So it had had a partridge berry, a lot of periwinkle, and another creeper that creeps along. So I cleaned that all out, and I threw in some milkweed. I threw in my Joe Pye weed that's grown a lot. I have my button bush under there, and I have some butterfly weed, which is right down there. You can see the butterfly weed. Here's some more that are blooming in here. It's a beautiful little bush. I do quite love the milkweed and the butterfly weed and all of those milkweed types because they have such a beautiful bloom. I have my cardinal flower down in there. So on the other side of the grapevine, I planted my anise hyssop and all of the other ones that I had left here. I can't even remember the names. It's been so long since I planted these. So I just came back in. We have an issue with bindweed. So 2 to 3 times a year, I will come in and clean out all the bindweed. So I just did this in this area, so it's looking a little rough. But this is where I did plant the rest of my plants. So just in this spot right here, which is just adjacent to my driveway. All right, so that is it for my rewilding suburbia, buying native plants, and why you should do so. Please make sure you hit subscribe and like this video, share it so that everybody can see the benefits of planting native plants and rewilding your yard. I will see you guys next time.